Welcome to Talking Plant Protein. My guest today is helping build a bridge from your products to the consumer. NXFood is joining us today. Frank Anders, Head of Strategy and Financial Planning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for having me. Yeah, very happy to be here today.
Let's just jump right in with a little bit about your background and what NXFood does for our industry.
Well, NXFood basically has two roles. So we started off a couple of years ago as the food innovation hub of the Metro Group, which is one of the largest wholesalers in the world, operating mostly in Europe and in Asia. And so our role there is to bring food and food-related innovations into the group, right? There, the focus also is on the gastronomy customer, and that's where the topic of today comes from. And the second part, about a year ago, we decided that the expertise and the network that we've built and all the experiences could also be very interesting to external clients. So we founded a separate company, and NXFood now is a standalone company that also supports external clients in the fields of, like, we share our expertise, we provide access to our ecosystem, so the networks that we've built over the years, and also we share our experiences in implementing projects together with our clients. So these are basically the two roles that we have.
Let's talk about that go-to-market approach. What is Gastronomy First?
I mean, Gastronomy First, in an essence, is a go-to-market strategy where you do not start in retail, but you focus on the independent gastronomy. That's where you take your market entry, right? So that's what it's all about in essence.
And how much did the consumer play a role in developing this strategy?
Well, at the end of the day, of course, you want to have a large impact with your company, be it financially or be it environmentally. But you need to build the awareness with the consumer. So you need to go where your target consumer is. And the interesting and the fascinating thing about Gastronomy First is that you start off with a very small, targeted customer group. Take, for example, Impossible Foods. They specifically target meat eaters. So they went to specific restaurants and chefs that had a clear focus on meat. And by convincing those chefs and their customers, well, yeah, you get the best stamp of approval and credibility that you could possibly get. And from there, you can spread the word and build your brand, because you have the credibility, you have the awareness of this really clear, focused customer group that then you can use for a broader audience.
I did a little bit of research on this culinary term, and I thought it was such an exquisite thing because it's known as the art of the table, and originally was distinguishing between good and fine experiences. So with that in mind, what are the benefits of going straight to the culinary experts for partnerships?
It's about the first impression that you could create with the consumers that is so important, right? So think about a new product or even a new category. And if you place it in retail, the customer buys, or the consumer buys it, takes it home, doesn't know how to handle it, screws it up, never buys it again, right? The first impression, misery. Or if you place it into the hands of an expert who can actually do justice to the product, knows how to handle it, even might be able to cover some flaws in the beginning, well, you have a very, very high likelihood to create an excellent first impression and to give this first experience to the customer that is positive, and create a reference case so that the consumer knows, oh, wow, that was a good impression, and now I want to have it at home. And I know it tastes good, it smells good, and with this, you have a positive experience that the consumer can take at home. So that's all about gastronomy.
and it essentially then is creating your own demand with the consumer, and it's fascinating. Have you had trouble getting the visionaries behind the brands to think this way? This isn't how it's always been done.
No, it's certainly not done this way most of the times. It's a relatively new approach that we saw with a couple of companies. And from our experience, it is relevant for, let's say, two specific criteria. First of all, you need to be or you don't need to be, but usually it's important for emergent brands, because if you're an established brand, you have your channels, you can directly go to retail and place a new product. So not really interesting. The second part is you need to have a product, or it's interesting to products where the consumer is not familiar with. So it's a new product or even a new category that you need to build. And I think for these, it could be alternative proteins, but it could also be drinks or something in this line. But it need to be some, let's say, new development. And for these two categories, I think Gastronomy First is very interesting. And if you're in the field of developing this kind of product, be it now cultivated meat or be it fermented meat or also plant-based with new ingredients or anything, I think those people know about it. And it's rather not about shifting their mindset to a new approach, it's rather helping them execute. Because people or all the professionals out there, they know how to enter retail, but there is no playbook or no guidance how to enter the gastronomy and how to build a successful case through the Gastronomy First approach. Because finding this network of chefs and restaurants that start building your case and that serve your actual target customer, that's a very, very different first or difficult first step you need to do. And the second part is then, okay, now we need to find the right distributor who can actually support us in the best case across different markets in order to open more doors and open the network. Because in retail, the market is usually allocated among 4 to 5 big brands, right? But in gastronomy, it's completely different. You have a whole market that's very fragmented, usually only 1 to 5 restaurants. So it's very, very different to access them and find them. It's not, you really need to go out from door to door. And that's where a distributor like Metro or Classic Fine Foods can actually support you.
Help our audience understand that distribution power. How many restaurants, how many countries? There's a lot of power behind Metro.
Yeah, I mean, Metro operates in 25 countries globally, mostly in Europe, and we have around 20 million active buying customers. Of course, they are not all from gastronomy, because our focus is, or on this, our slogan as Metro is champion for independent businesses. So in most countries, and that means if you are a business client, so we focus on B2B, and if you're a business client, you can buy at Metro. That doesn't, the focus customer is gastronomy, but that means if you are a dentist, so you're a business client, you are allowed to shop at Metro, so you're allowed in. But our focus customer is gastronomy. That means we roughly have, on a global scale or in our core customer group and markets, roughly 3 million restaurateurs we work with. So it's a huge network, and the brand awareness is close to 100% in the markets we operate. So everyone knows Metro. That's the advantage.
That is an advantage. You've mentioned some very big names today: Impossible Foods, Beyond Meat, TiNDLE. What role did NXFood play in their success stories?
So let me maybe start with Beyond Meat, because they are the, let's say, most established brand. And when Beyond Meat was at a point where they wanted to enter Europe, it was actually NXFood together with the Metro Group who launched Beyond Meat in the gastronomy sector in Europe. And we are still today, as of today, the largest distributor of Beyond Meat in their B2B sector for Europe. So we help them into the sector with events, and of course then we created the first blueprint in Germany, how our market entry via gastronomy could look like, and then we used this blueprint and replicated it in different countries. So now they are spread across different countries. For TiNDLE and Impossible Food, it was rather not NXFood as a company itself. I mean, yeah, we made behind the scenes, let's say, some small introductions, and we helped them with some publicity, but it was rather our another subsidiary company called Classic Fine Foods, who mostly works in Asia, who actually then signed a distribution contract with TiNDLE and also Impossible Food, and launched them in Singapore, Hong Kong, and now spreading them throughout more markets, because they are a premium restaurant and hotel distributor of goods. So they are in the upper segment, and then they can open the door to the relevant restaurants on a larger scale across different countries. And that's then the important part where they can contribute.
So the success stories are certainly what we want to hear about, and they fuel our industry forward. But I have to ask the hard question here. Can this approach be accessed and ultimately successful for the little guy? The startups are coming with so many varying experience levels, but sometimes with no industry connections. What would be your advice there?
Mm-hmm. I mean, from our experience, this can work for every company out there. It's just about, okay, go out and establish your network. So it can work for everyone. Of course, if you look now at cases like Impossible or even TiNDLE, they have a broad network, but they built it over years. They built it over time. So they also started small. So go out, go to your favorite restaurant, to your favorite chef, and identify a couple of chefs who would be willing and interesting to work with your product. Or go to a network, like networking events, could be incubators, accelerator events, so meetups where people, where supporters would find you, or you could find them, and then build your network from there. And if you're in Europe, well, of course, call us and we can help you.
We appreciate your time today, Frank, and your expertise. I hope we talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, Nicole. Hope to talk to you soon again.